What's up, Ocean? You got Matt here, and today I'm bringing you a guide on how to use Dondozo in competitive Pokemon. This thing is insanely fat and pairs well with so many different Pokemon, so if you're excited for the video, then do me a favor and leave a like on the video to help us reach our like goal of 75 likes. Make sure to comment your thoughts on this Pokemon down in the comments below for your chance to be named the winner of the comment of the day and have your comment appear on the screen right about now. And of course, guys, subscribe to the channel as well. End of the year is closing in, and we are also closing in on 4,000 subscribers. Let's see if we can get there by the end of the year. Let's go ahead and jump on into it. Starting off with its stats, it has 150 base HP, which is absolutely crazy. It is one of the bulkiest Pokemon out there, especially when you compare it with other Pokemon that have a different type than it does or different abilities. Its attack stat is 100, which is fine. It's obviously not the best we've seen out there, but it definitely gets the job done even without any investment. It has a ridiculously good defense stat at 115, which when paired with its HP stat is one of the best physically defensive Pokemon in the entire game. 65 base special attack doesn't matter at all because it's a, well, physical attacker, and 65 special attack, or special defense rather, is not necessarily the best, but when paired with 150 HP, it is definitely respectable. Its speed stat at 35 leaves a lot to be desired, but it's more of a physical defensive Pokemon, a wall, and in certain situations, mostly in VGC, it doesn't even care that it has 35 base speed because it's still outspeeding basically everything. Its typing is pure water, which is one of the best defensive types in the game. It has 2 weaknesses, to electric and to grass. That's it. It has resistances to 4 types, steel, fire, water, and ice, and no immunities. Now, is this type good because it has few weaknesses? Is it good because it has a lot of resistances? What's the deal? It's actually good because there's a good overall mix. Okay, having only those 2 weaknesses and having a couple of key resistances to some really notable and powerful offensive types in today's metagame is obviously very valuable. Has it fallen off a little bit since Generation 8? I believe so, that water now has fallen off a little bit compared to other types like steel and fairy, but in general, it still is a very strong type defensively nonetheless. It has amazing abilities, 3 of them. One of them is like really good. Another one is better in doubles than in singles, and the other one is honestly not going to see any play. But starting off with the best ability it has, that's going to be Unaware. Unaware essentially makes so that this Pokemon ignores the changes of stats of other Pokemon when they are attacking you or you are doing damage to them. So for example, if you are a Dondozo going up against a Pokemon that has a +1 boost in attack from a Dragon Dance, let's say, then it's acting as if it's at neutral. Just like the same way, if you're going up against a Pokemon that has an Iron Defense up and you go for a Wave Crash, then you're actually doing neutral damage to it, not damage as if it were at +2. And it's really valuable in a lot of situations to be able to take hits, stop setup, and also break through opposing Pokemon. It also gets access to Oblivious. Now, Oblivious is really good in doubles because it gives you an Intimidate immunity, which is really valuable. Having that buff in the previous generation was really good. It also makes so you can't be Infatuated, which doesn't come up, but Taunting does. And lastly, Water Veil. It can be burnt, which, like, fine, it doesn't want to be burnt, but you might as well just hold a Lumberry or a Raw Spear if you're really worried about that, or just run Rest. I'd rather do that than run Water Veil over Oblivious or Unaware. It has a couple of really awesome moves though. One of the most notable moves that it gets is Wave Crash. This is basically a water type double edge. So it's 120 base power, physical water move, gets stab on that, which is great, and it is 33% recoil. Now, why is this so important? Why is this so notable? Well, first of all, it's a new move, so I'm going to mention it. But second, the fact that it is eating into your HP is really good. You have 150 base HP, and it's based on 33% of the damage that you've dealt. So if you're doing damage to a Pokemon that has base 80 HP, just like half of your HP stats, you're not going to take anything back from the 33%. It's going to do very little. It's going to take back, what, 15% of your HP? That's nothing. So you're able to click this button over and over and get a lot of KOs with it, especially because it's such a powerful attack. And if you get some boosts off, then it's going to be really good there too. It also has its signature move in Order Up, which the animation is a little bit weird, but the fact that it's an 80 base power dragon move that has the opportunity to boost your stats is crazy. So the way it works is it's always going to be 80 base power dragon move, which is really nice. But if you are with a Tatsugiri and you have eaten the Tatsugiri with the Commander ability, then you're going to be able to get boosts depending on what color Tatsugiri you absorb. If it's going to be the curly Tatsugiri, which is the orange one, you get a +1 attack boost after you use this attack. If it's the droopy one, which is the red or pinkish one, then you get a +1 defense boost. And if it's the stretchy one, which is the yellow one, you get a +1 speed boost. Now, depending on which stat you're going for, all of these could have a lot of value. Most of the time though, you're going to see the one that's for attack because attack is a bit more important, and maybe sometimes speed depending on the rest of a VGC team. Then it also gets access to Body Press, which is fantastic on a Pokemon with this high defensive stat at 115. It gets access to Crunch, which could be good in certain situations, especially in Draft League where you have to prepare for whether it's a Ghost type or a Psychic type or whatever. Earthquake, really spammable move, spread damage, very powerful, hits hard, awesome move, one of the best moves in the game, of course. Rock Slide, not necessarily for flinches, but it could be for flinches in doubles, depending on if you're running the Tatsugiri combo or not. Heavy Slam breaks through fairies. It's a pretty heavy Pokemon. It's like 440 pounds, I think it's like 212-ish kilograms, which is decently heavy. Has access to Ice Fang, which I'm only mentioning because it's a way to hit grass type Pokemon and I guess the dragon types in the formats as well. So just that's important to notice. And then Zen Headbutt as well, more so for Pokemon like fighting types. That's really the main reason why you'd be running Zen Headbutt over basically anything else. And then for some status moves, really importantly, it's access to Yawn. Having access to Yawn with Unaware is really valuable because if something's coming in and taking an attack on you while you are boosted, or not boosted rather, while you have the Unaware, they can't really break you. You can click Yawn, stop them from setting up any further, and then kind of force them out, which is really valuable. Rest, super important because this is your best way to recover back your own HP. And then Curse. This is not a ghost type Pokemon, so having access to Curse gives you a boost in attack and defense. It loses you a bit of speed stab. That doesn't really matter too much in this case because you're already really slow, and getting the attack boost and the defense boost is really, really important for whatever set you're running. Whether it's going to be Unaware or not, you still want to get those boosts because of the offense and defensive potential for this Pokemon. So what about some teammates to pair with Dondozo? Well, I'm going to cover about 9 or 8 of them here, and I'll be honest, I'm pairing them a mix between doubles and singles. So in certain formats, they're really good to pair with Dondozo, and others, they're really bad. So just take it with a grain of salt and figure out which is the best for you, but I will explain which ones, in my opinion, are going to work well with the other type. So obviously, the best one, Tatsugiri. In doubles only. Singles has some merit for whatever reason because Tatsugiri has a good amount of support moves, but the main thing is in doubles, you get the commander ability on the Tatsugiri, which means you can basically jump into the mouth of the Dondozo, literally, and you give it a +2 boost in all of its stats except for HP. That's crazy. +2 boost in speed, attack, special attack, defense. It's crazy how good it is. On top of that, it basically makes it so you're hitting insanely hard and able to take a lot of hits. And if, for whatever reason, you faint while your Tatsugiri is in the mouth of the Dondozo, for example, it was burnt or toxic or whatever the case might be, that's really good. Why is that? Well, the fact that you're burning yourself or toxicing yourself and you're fainting in the mouth, your Dondozo keeps the stat boosts, and you can then send in another Pokemon. And that other Pokemon is going to be Flamigo with Co-Star. Co-Star is the ability is really good, and it's kind of what makes it a Pokemon that pairs well with Dondozo. It's actually one of the highest rated pairings for this Pokemon in terms of VGC right now, which is really, really nice. It gets a +2 boost in all of its stats while the Dondozo has the +2 boost in all of its stats because of its ability Co-Star, which copies the stat changes. And that's really good. The issue is it's kind of inconsistent, and it also loses to anyone who just knows the strategy. So in formats where it's going to be very popular, it's going to be worse. But in formats where it's not popular at all, it can catch a lot of people off guard and just win a game outright, which is kind of important and really, really impressive when you think about it. Other teammates we're going to see are going to be things like Grimmsnarl, and this works both for singles and doubles. Reason being is if you can get up these screens, that's really valuable to take hits defensively, and it's especially good in a doubles format because you're able to take a lot of hits and just go for more wave crashes a bit more consistently. It's really good and it stops opposing sweepers and allows you to sweep a lot more effectively with your Dondozo. Amoonguss is also really impressive because if you're in a situation with the Tatsugiri and you don't want to be running the Flamigo set, then having access to an Amoonguss in the back is also really good because that Pokemon gets Rage Powder, so it can absorb all the hits while Dondozo is basically just at +2 doing as much damage as possible. At the same time, Dondozo is weak to 2 types, electric and grass, and having Amoonguss, which resists those types, is incredibly valuable. They support each other really well and they pair insanely well for each other, and honestly, ironically, Dondozo walls Dondozo, so having access to a Pokemon like Amoonguss to help deal with opposing Dondozos is really useful as well. Then we have Glimmora. This is obviously a single set. Really the main thing is because you want to have an amazing way to get up hazards. T-Spike's chip on a Pokemon that's going to be bulky like Dondozo is really important because you're able to wear them down passively instead of actually going for attacks over and over. Then we have Iron Moth, and the reason I have Iron Moth here is because it's an amazing special breaker. I want to see different roles, like pair this Pokemon with different roles. So I have a special breaker here in Iron Moth, which is just an example, but most special breakers are going to work really well with it as long as they don't overlap too much in typing. Then we have Clodsire, reason being it is a grounded poison type, so you can be absorbing the toxic spikes for the Dondozo, which is really nice. It also is another great unaware Pokemon for the special attacking Pokemon that are in the format because it has a much higher special defense stat than defense stat, which is the inverse of Dondozo. Skeledirge for the same reason. It's again another great unaware Pokemon. The issue is, I think the reason why pairing Skeledirge with Dondozo is better than Clodsire is because the fact that you get access to Will-O-Wisp means you can just allow Dondozo to be a bit more offensive as well and not lock it into more of a defensive role, a bulky role. It can just do a bit more on a team, and that I think is really, really important. And it also does resist, of course, the grass type attacks. Then there is Dragapult. Now Dragapult I have here as for two reasons. Number one, it's an amazing breaker in general and a really good physical breaker, especially with Terra Blast Fire or Terra Blast Ghost, which is really good on a Dragon Dance set or even a spec set. But the reason why I have it here is mostly because we have a great pivot and it has a great speed stat, because you have to take advantage of the speed stats your opponent has. And if you're in a situation where you're underspeeding basically everything with Dondozo, you need to have a fast Pokemon as well. Moving on to some of the best Terra types for this Pokemon, starting off with Terra Water. Terra Water gives you boost on your stab wave crashes, which is super powerful, really useful in certain situations. Terra Ground is awesome because it gives you an electric immunity. Obviously, you're still weak to grass, which is fine, but it gives you access to spread Earthquake that is going to be boosted, or single targeted Stomping Tantrums, which has a lot of value as well. Terra Grass is really nice because you're immune, or not immune, but resisting opposing grasses and electric type Pokemon, which has a lot of value and helps out a lot against opposing Dondozos if you're running Terra Blast. And then finally, Fairy. Why? Because in my opinion, it's like the best defensive typing in the game. Chi-Yu is mostly running Terra Dark now, or Terra Fire, so they have to basically have a 50-50. Are they going to go for the Terra Fire attack on you and you resist with the water type attack, or water typing rather, or are they going to go for Terra Dark and you resist with the Fairy typing? That's why I have these 4 Terra types here. Now for some items, there's a lot of them, but I'm only going to cover 5 of them. Starting off with the Assault Vest. Really solid item here, allowing you to take advantage of Dondozo's really awesome physical coverage options. You run moves like Earthquake, Rock Slide, Wave Crash, or Liquidation for a bit of extra support, we'll call it, or lack of chip, and then something like Crunch or Terra Blast, whatever the case might be. You have a really cool set there. Then we have the Lumberry, amazing for the Dondozo set with the Tatsu gear that I mentioned, because it protects you from getting burnt, which is really nice, protects you from getting toxic, all these things at least one time, and that's a lot of value. The Leftovers is really good for an unaware set, especially in singles, because Protect is pretty common. Even if you want to run a unaware set in doubles to wall opposing Dondos or opposing sweepers, Protect does work well because of the recovery you're getting from the Leftovers and of course the scouting. And then of course the Chesto Berry, it was fantastic for a Resto Chesto set, is very common to see on the OU ladder right now and a really solid option overall. And then lastly, Rocky Helmet as a great physical defensive Pokemon. Having the Rocky Helmet to take those physical attacks and deal a bit of passive damage is still really valuable. Now let's take a look at some of these sets, the best sets that you can run for your next team that's using Dondozo. And again, we're going to look at some for doubles and some for singles. Starting off with a doubles set here, we are running a max attack, max speed, adamant nature Dondozo. Now very important here, I did the calcs at level 50 with max attack, adamant nature. You outspeed at +2 neutral nature again, base 106s and below, assuming they're not choice scarred. That's really valuable. Some notable Pokemon that you're going to be outspeeding are going to be Pokemon like Iron Treads when it comes to VGC. Chi-Yu when it comes to VGC, Garchomp, which is one of the best Pokemon in the format, and of course Hydreigon, another one of the best Pokemon in the format. And all these Pokemon I just mentioned, you hit them super effectively with whether it's Order Up or Wave Crash, and that's really good. And because they're going to be basically at +2, these are going to pretty much get OHKOs unless they're Terastalizing into a different type. These are really important, as I mentioned before, and for this set here, I would run Terra Ground on it to boost the Earthquakes. You have Protect there for a bit more support, and we have Oblivious this time because it intimidates Shuffling, and Lumberry for potential burns, toxics, hypnosis, whatever the case might be. Then we have a Dondozo with the Assault Vest, and this set here is really solid. We have the speed investment, 68 investment in speed is there, so that +2 we outspeed modest Armarouge. I know Armarouge can boost up with the weak armor, but in cases not running the weak armor set, it's more of a flash fire set, we do outspeed it now, which is really nice. Because we're running the Assault Vest here, we have to be running 4 attacking moves, so we swapped out Protect for Rock Slide to get some potential flinches and have some more spread damage that doesn't hit your own teammate, which is really nice. Next up is going to be a Chesto Berry set for singles, unaware this time, Liquidation, Earthquake, Rest, and Body Press, fully physically defensive. You're going to do a lot of damage with Body Press. You're going to basically take any physical hit out there, which is amazing, as long as it's not a powerful Grass or, I guess, electric type attack, or maybe even like a Chen Pao's Terra Dark Crunch. That's going to be doing the most amount of damage to you. So keep that in mind. You're an insanely powerful physically defensive Pokemon, so you should really try to use it in singles. Then we have another Chesto Berry set. This time around, though, we are running Curse over Earthquake. I believe that careful nature with especially defensive investment is really useful because you're already boosting your defenses with the Curse, so you can get that boost in attack and defense, of course, over time. Your special defense you can boost. So I do think that this overall is a really solid set. You can run defensive on this, just keep in mind special attacking moves are going to do a lot of damage to you if you don't have the investment there. Now let's talk about the predictions that I have for this Pokemon in terms of where it's going to end up in the different competitive metagames over the course of its lifetime in this generation. I cover Smogon, VGC, and Draft League, and if you guys are interested in learning more about any of these formats, then make sure to subscribe to the channel. Starting off with Smogon, I believe this Pokemon is going to end up in the UU tier, and I'll be honest, I do see a world where it ends up in OU and stays there. The issue that I have with it is I feel at some point in time the gimmick is going to wear off. it's still a really good Pokemon, don't get me wrong, and it's gonna get better if Terastalize ends up getting banned. The issue that I have with it is there's better Pokemon that do unaware stuff than this Pokemon here, and the most notable one is going to be Skeledirge. Skeledirge can be offensive and defensive, has access to Will-O-Wisp, has access to Slack Off, has a better typing in my opinion overall, defensively at least. So why would you run Dondozo unless you're specifically trying to counter opposing water types, ice types, steel types, or fire types? And even then, the Pokemon I just mentioned, Skeledirge, resists 3 of those 4 types. Yeah, I feel like that's why it's going to be eventually in the UU tier. For VGC, it is a big time gimmick Pokemon that is really, really good right now. And just because it is a gimmick Pokemon doesn't mean it can't be good for a long time. The issue that I'm having with it, and the reason why I think eventually it's going to fall down in usage is because the more people use it, the more people are going to be preparing for it. They're going to have Pokemon set up to counter the setup strategy that is running with like the Flamigo and of course the Tatsugiri with like Toxic Orb that's going to be trying to KO itself and while it's in the mouth of the Dondozo and then get the Co-Star boost. They're going to try and maybe run Hypnosis to shut down the Toxic Orb on the Tatsugiri, which is really important so it can never go down and it's still going to be basically 2-on-1. They're going to be running a way to maybe, I don't know, shut down the Endure set. They're going to try and find a way to just fake out stall the Dondozo, whatever the case might be. It's going to be very common ways to find a way to beat down Dondozo, and that's why I think that as it gains popularity, it's going to get worse and worse, but the least popular it is, the less popular it is, the better it's going to be offensively and as a breaker in the metagame. As for Draft League, this is my specialty, so if you guys like that kind of content, then of course make sure to subscribe to the channel as well. On a scale of 17 to 18 points being the absolute maximum, this Pokemon is going to be around the 10 or 11 tier. Now the reason for that is because it's a really bulky Pokemon. It can do a lot of good things, has great coverage, and can take advantage of that. I also think it's going to be better in VGC than in Draft League, and better than Draft League than in Smogon. However, I would never draft this Pokemon at 10 or 11 points, and the reason for that is because I just don't see the value in this Pokemon at that range. Sure, it has a lot of things it can do, but I'd rather draft other Pokemon, other bulky waters in the format. But it's too good to be 8 or 9 points. So we're in a bit of a catch-22 here. Makes it a little difficult to decide how you want to tier it, but I do think overall it'll end up at 10 or 11 because it's way too good for a single-digit tiering. And that's all I got for you guys today on Dondozo. If you guys enjoyed the video, then do me a favor and leave a like on the video and help us reach our like goal of 75 likes. Make sure to comment your thoughts on Dondozo down in the comments below, and you have a chance to be named the winner of the comment of the day and have your comment appear on the screen right about now. Subscribe to the channel as well to help us reach our sub goal of 4,000 subscribers. And I know you guys like the longer form videos. They always seem to do a little bit better once we pass that 15-minute mark. So I'm gonna try to bring you guys more longer term videos going forward as well. I also want to give a big thank you to our YouTube channel members. Their support is greatly appreciated. So shout out to our level 1s, which are going to be Liv, Eric, Zeke, and Texas Man. Our level 2 is Tone. Our level 3 is Sully. If you guys want to become a channel member as well, make sure to click the join button on the screen and just below the time card. Thank you guys for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys all tomorrow.